You good, Zoe?
Mayor at 6:30.
So you want to do your first?
Please. The August 2nd Budget Workshop is being held with a quorum of City of Westlake Council physically in attendance at the Westlake Council Chambers, 4005 Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. Councilman Patrick Paul, Vice Mayor John Paul O'Connor, Mayor Roger Manning, Councilwoman Katrina Long Robinson, and Councilwoman Kara Crump are present physically in attendance. City Manager Kenneth Castle, Interim City Attorney Quentin Morgan, and City Clerk Zoe Burgess are present physically and in attendance. Public comments may be accepted prior to the meeting utilizing the electronic comment card available on the city's website. Public comments are also permitted at the appropriate time during the meeting. The mayor will call for such during public comments, and you may participate at this time utilizing the system's virtual hand feature and waiting to be acknowledged if you wish to comment. Please note this meeting is being recorded, both voice and video, and to remember your mic may be live. I will mute any microphones that carry any feedback or interruptions. If you are a caller that has been muted, you may unmute yourself by pressing *6. Any person in the virtual meeting causing a disruption or being inappropriate will be removed from the meeting. If I may also remind those physically in attendance, please utilize microphones so that the virtual attendance or the virtual audience and a clear recording of the meeting is produced. Thank you, Mayor Manning.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the City of Westlake Budget Workshop, Monday, August 2nd, 2021 at 6:31 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Long Robinson,
Here.
Councilwoman Crump. Here. Councilman Paul. Vice Mayor O'Connor,
Present.
Mayor Manning.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not to say that we're all not Trump.
Okay, we'll have our budget presentation from Mr. Castle.
Yes, Mayor Manning and Council, good evening. As we get started, there's a couple things I'd like to go over because evidently there's some information out there, some confusion as to the budget process and what's actually in your taxes and tax rolls. Every property owner, regardless of whether it's developed or undeveloped land, pays the property tax on that value of that land, regardless of what it is. For an improved property, it's set at whatever the rate is for that particular unimproved lot. So, for example, the developers, whether it's Mentos or Sky Cove or Crestwind, whoever it is, once they plat lots, they're paying for that platted lot. The value of that platted lot, that developed lot, is their value versus the raw land. So, as somebody comes in, and I think most of them have been running like $68,000 or $70,000 for the blank of land, they're paying every year that they don't have a house on that they've sold to somebody. They're paying the value, the taxes based upon the value of that each lot. So whoever owns the land is paying taxes. Of your total tax bill, you have to remember that the tax bill that you're receiving has the county operating, county debt, fire rescue, library operating, library debt, public schools by state law, public schools by local board, the Westlake operating, South Florida Water Management, South Florida Water Management Distribution, Everglades Construction, Florida Inland Navigation District, Children's Services Council, and the Healthcare District included in your taxes. Of that total tax bill, roughly 20, if your house is valued around $300,000 net after your exemption, about 22% of that total amount is what Westlake receives, which is about $1,500. So each homeowner, depending on the value of the house, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, depending on it, is what actually Westlake receives out of those $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 in taxes that somebody pays. The majority of it's going someplace else for schools, tax, everything else. And out of that Westlake operating, we're paying as part of that our police department, which is contract with PBSO and all the other services that the city provides. So I wanted to kind of get that out because there was some confusion about where the dollars are going and how much is there and why it's not happening here in Westlake. Because the county is responsible for the libraries. We're not doing libraries in the city. We're not set up for it. It's the libraries, the counties, things like that. So that's kind of wanted to get that out there in the beginning as a base plan, because what we're talking about in the Westlake budget is the roughly $1,500 if your house is valued at about $300,000.
Well, it's interesting that only 22% of your tax bill only comes back to the city. That's very
Right.
little.
A lot of services there, there's fire, and yes.
Yeah, the school board schools are 32% of the total bill. The county's overall operating is about 20%. Fire rescue is 14%. So just because sometimes people lose track, they think their whole bill is coming to the city when in fact it's only a piece of the bill that the city is actually operating from.
Thanks for putting that in perspective.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. We're good to go, Zoe, I hope? No, we're not. Technology always works till the meeting starts.
Yeah, there you go.
Same one, right? Yes, Mayor and Council, as you look at the first slide here, and again, the projections that are in the budget and the numbers that we're projecting from are based solely on home construction and home values and raw land or developed land. This current year, we're looking at about $334 million of, actually it's $358 million worth of taxable value. And that was projected based upon a chart a few months ago when we're about 750 to 800 homes. So that's our projections. Also in budgeting, one of the things that you do standard is you underestimate your revenues by anywhere from 5 to 10%, and you overestimate your expenses by 5 to 10%. Because if you try to cut it closer than that, you are going to come up short sooner or later. So these numbers are basing on some projections of that. If we go on to the next slide, you can see that this year we're projecting about $1.6 million in net revenue based upon the taxes coming in on the ad valorem taxes. Our source of revenue is 51% is the ad valorem taxes of our total revenue. 37% is developer contributions if needed. And again, the developer's contribution portion is a backstop funding mechanism that was put in place when the city was started, that if we needed revenue and we were short, the developer would fund the shortfall. One of the things that we've done as we've grown is we've been very conservative on adding the number of people, increasing size of overall operations to keep that number for everybody down as low as possible without overkilling. I mean, you could have, I was not who I am. You could have padded it and bumped it up and had a lot more useless people, shall we say, just to have people versus having an efficient operation. So we've been striving for an efficient operation. Our other licenses and fees and other taxes. One of the things we are working on the other taxes, there's 6% right now. We should have accomplished in the next couple months is we should be getting into play the franchise fee for the gas company. That's been on back burner, not on back burner, but been held up for a while because it ends up being a three-party agreement between the city, SID, and the franchisee. And there were some issues about typically when they pay franchise fees, they do not pay permit fees. But since all the rights of way and all the utility easements are SID's, Sid does charge a fee, so we're trying to figure out how to balance that out where once they pay their first fee, there's no additional fees, or it's deducted from their franchise fee amount that they would be paying the city. So we're still in negotiations with the legal team from Florida Public Utilities. I just saw a draft today of the documents that we should be having in the next week or so, another meeting with DJ's group, Diffenderfer, and the attorney from FPU to iron out the final details on that.
Does that work similar to the electric franchise,
Yes.
right? Franchising
Yeah.
also?
Yeah, it's a percentage based upon sales and based upon other, same as you have a telecommunications tax also that we have installed. We have a utility tax that we also impose on the utility bills as well for other revenue, other sources.
When should we see that kick in, those franchise fees?
We'll see it this year because as soon as we get the agreement done, then they'll start paying the franchise fees.
Do we have an estimation or even an idea?
With the changes we've had with legal counsel, I would say within 60 to 90 days, we should be able to nail it down. So possibly before budget actually starts, we should have franchise fees kicking in.
Does that happen immediately, and how do they pay it?
They pay it on a monthly basis,
On a
or
monthly
monthly or
basis.
quarterly. I can't remember what the actual agreement states.
So it starts as soon as the agreement's signed?
Yeah, they know how much gas, how many clients are having, et cetera, and it starts coming online.
So they've been getting a free ride this whole time with franchise.
Yeah, but they've been,
Permit fees and so on, other
but we,
things that they wouldn't have had to pay
correct.
if they were paying them. So it's
kind of a balance out, but it's taken some time for them to get through and to get everything up. But the bottom line is they have been providing service with a modified system, et cetera. So we haven't had any interruptions that way. But now we'll be able to probably, and then, as was stated by Mr. Moreland the other week, they're already started down south coming north. Once they get the pressurization station in and across on Persimmon, then the tank farm will be gone. All right, the next slide is, again, projections of revenues. As you can see, by 2024, the green line of the developer contribution is slated to go away. Based upon our current projections, we should be fine. If not, I'll have to figure out how to either trim the budget or get some of the commercial sites online faster, one or the other. But right now, based upon our conservative projections, we should be fine.
It'll work out. Now, this is based solely on homes.
Solely on homes, no commercials.
So we know that there will be commercial in place.
Correct. This 7-Eleven will be on. The other 7-Eleven will be on by the following year. The improvements to the Winn-Dixie will hit because there are improvements that added value to that site. By 2024, January 2024, we should have 2 or 3 of the commercials on site.
storage facility.
Yes. Yeah, they're already on a tax roll. Everything else is already on tax roll. Okay. Now if we go into, come on. It stopped again, Zoe. All right, advance it one. The next slide is budget expenditures by function. You'll see that 28% of our overall budget is the community services, which is your building, planning, zoning, engineer. That's the lion's share of the work that's going on in the city right now. City manager is about 7%, legal is about 7%, finance is 3%, clerk is 8%. other administrative services, which is a combination of individuals that provide the administrative services and backup. Back office work is about 18% of the budget. Next slide, Zoe. Again, this is a same expenditures by function in a graph chart format, so you can see where your higher ones are, your administrative services and your capital and contingency reserves. The dark green of the capital contingency reserves is building our first quarter reserves before 2024. Once we have our first quarter reserves built, they basically stay as part of the budget. So you have your first quarter operating reserves as a integral part of your overall budget.
Excuse me, the legislative part of that. I know that we had in the budget for a lobbyist at one point, I believe, but we never did anything. Is that what that part of it is?
That would be where it would go. It would go in that department. So I'm not sure we need one for this year, but next year, year after, we'll probably add back in and then go from there. It would be in that department though. Yeah. Next slide, Zoe. And again, this is projecting our deficits. And it looks like we may be underwater in 2024 by $200,000, but I don't think we are going to be that way. That was based upon numbers about 3 or 4 months ago. But based upon what we're doing now with the number of units we've got, I would expect we'll probably be, if we're in a hole at all, maybe $15,000, $20,000. If not, we should be to the good.
I think one of the things that we may have, I know it came to my mind is that once they get into the building the townhomes, those are going to go, I think they're going to go a lot faster. And I think they will, I think they'll be able, and not only that, construction will go much faster to put those units in. And that's gonna bump things up quite a bit faster than we'll do it by single family home, I believe. So that's gonna help in that area.
Okay. And with that, that's all I have on the PowerPoint presentation, Mr. Mayor and Council. The rest of it is in the agenda package that you were given. We can walk through some of those pages, page by page, if you'd like, or I can just take questions. It's your choice. On page 8 of your package number, it's down in the lower right-hand corner, is the all funds total budget.
I'm seeing that we actually came in, the forecast is $729,000 less than the budget.
Than what we had expected to spend,
Right.
Correct.
And your budget set for this year is $6,010,500. So we got actually, we're increasing our budget over last year, like $1.5 million on that.
That would be, well, our amended budget for 2021 was $5.2 million.
Right.
And again, the budget is the budget, but we don't spend the budget if we don't have to, but you've got to collect for it and have it there in case. So that change is about $740,000 change from year over year. It's about 14% different.
So those 740, where are they? Where is
It is spread out in a number of different places. Some of it is in added staff. Some of it is in areas where we added back in, for example, in the line item in the city council's budget, we added back in the fireworks dollars. and some other things like that.
Operating expense went up quite a bit. Why is that?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
City operating expense went up quite a bit. From 2.5 million roughly to 2.9.
Well, we had 4.7 last year, went up 10% as a proposed change in operating expenditures for the total funding.
What page you
Still on number 8, page 8.
I'm looking at
Because I'm looking at 10 and it shows 15%. On that,
482, 370. I don't have the exact detail with me on that.
maybe
That's where we found the other discrepancy was on the council's cost.
That's going down.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's been down considerably.
so. Going forward, can we have some more details on that?
Yes, I'll put the details out to you.
I'd really like to see a more, like, in-depth and itemized, as
So
far
you're
as.
looking more of a line item budget?
As far as the function, breakdown goes.
Okay.
So general fund by function. So, I know X amount goes to this staff, and that staff, this person, that person. I would like to know literally every dollar.
Going down to what by department?
Yeah, by department. It's more in depth.
And some of that's a little difficult to break down to that degree because it's by contract of service provided. So I can break it down by department and tell you how many people, for example, there are, what is it, 7 administrative services, for example, there's over 7 people, 8 people that work on the account, depending on time. There's 3 or 4 that are full-time.
So if I
The
can
rest
just get
are
a
on it.
list of those 7 that's in that
Okay.
department, I don't need to know what goes to who specifically. I mean, it'd be
You just need a body count for
But it
number
would
of
be-
people. Okay.
I just want to know where the money's going,
Okay.
rather than just a broad administration line item.
Not a problem.
Mayor, are we asking our questions just right?
Yeah, why don't we
Okay,
just
okay.
act as we go,
Okay.
because that way
Okay, gotcha.
it'll flow better that way.
Okay.
We'll get a better understanding as we go.
So for it, as it relates to piggyback off of them, and I know the operations, director position
Yes,
was included, but I didn't see it on the budget.
it's, okay.
And so if you could add that for me, and then, like, someone mentioned the percentage increase, it looked like it was about roughly 13%. So if you can kind of identify where exactly, the why behind the what of the 13% or that increase. And like I said, I just didn't see that operation, director included on the budget.
Yeah,
And it may
actually,
be, like you said, in there somewhere.
yeah, it's in there. It's actually on page 23 under contracts administrative services. That person is in that number.
Yeah, and- okay. So you'll be able to kind of.
Yeah, I'll split it out. And on that's one of the things that there's over 7 people in that department that either are full-time, part-time, quarter-time, eighth time, whatever time. In other words, your AP, your AR, your payroll person, et cetera, et cetera. And again, it's based upon the level of service that's required to make it happen. And that's kind of split up that way. But I can give you pretty much of a number of bodies in each area that it's split amongst.
Perfect.
Public service tax water, is that irrigation, is that sort of thing?
I'm sorry, what?
Public service tax water, what is it?
What page are you on?
13.
Public service tax. Or under other taxes.
Yes, you had, that's a revenue. When the city was started, we put in a tax on utilities, 10% tax. So the city collects a 10% utility tax on every water bill. We also correct a 10% tax, I believe it is, on every gas bill. We also have a communications tax on every cell phone or landline on communications. So we also receive a tax flow revenue from those.
I would really like to know what is the monthly cost, and I'm sure you don't have that now, but for irrigation, because me personally, it burns me up to know when the rain season.
The city that has
irrigation.
irrigation has nothing to do with the city. That's SID. It's not in this budget in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so that's out of that budget, but the residents are still getting paid for it. I gotta pay for it, right? And then I guess that becomes an outside question, but
That's a
maybe
city
some for the
question.
council meeting. A point for the next council meeting to have some numbers there. And see how we maybe better manage that.
That number would be better, that questions and stuff would be best presented to the SID board by whoever is interested. And it would be an appropriate at the SID board meeting, not the city council meeting. It is a SID function. It is a part of SID's budget. It is Seminole Improvement District's total responsibility. Those kind of issues need to be brought to the Seminole Improvement District Board of Supervisors for responses, not at the council meeting.
Well, that's where two heads come in, and that's what I'm asking you as a city manager to reach out to the city and get those numbers.
I will reach out to him and ask him about the numbers.
The events, that number went up to $63,800.
Yes,
What's on every plan for that?
fireworks.
Wasn't the idea that, or maybe find some sponsors to pay for that?
But if I can't, my intent, depending on the size display that we want to do, our numbers should be lower. But if I don't have sponsors, et cetera, we would have to foot the bill ourselves. You budget as if you have no sponsors. You get sponsors, you end up saving, and it drops to the bottom line.
Just, if we're looking at 2024 being possibly negative, on that number that you presented there, $63,000 play a big role. That is about half of what we forecasted to be in the negative. So while I understand fireworks and all that stuff, would that be that necessary to have that at that point, or wait? Do we want to wait until we actually not do the right numbers?
We have to budget for it now. Whether we spend that much would be as we get into the situation. But if you do not budget for it and it is not in your budget and you do not have the funds, then you would not be able to do it at all.
But if we budget for it, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to spend money.
No, it's not. I mean, we budgeted, if you look at this year's budget compared to last year's budget, we underspent about $700 and something thousand that we budgeted for, that we thought we were going to spend. And a lot of that money was going to come out of deficit funding by the developer, which we didn't have to do because we were very mindful of the dollars that we did have, spent them wisely, spent them expeditiously to make it happen. The same process is going to continue to go forward regardless of what we have in the budget. Every item as we go forward, those type of expenditures will come back to council. I've already had discussions with several different operations about partnering with the city on that kind of a event, down to food trucks make it a large situation to where it is, whether the hospital gets involved, whether the major developers get involved and everybody's kicking in a piece of it, how we wrap it together, how we tie it to events going on at the amenity center. The other thing is we have to have a space that's large enough to have a perimeter around the fireworks of a certain number of feet, so at this time, it would probably be utilizing the large parcel between Town Center Parkway North, Town Center Parkway South. The sales center and the amenity center would be the cordoned off shoot site, which gives you the radius that you need for falling objects, but yet allow all the people in the neighborhoods, et cetera, amenity center, et cetera, to watch it. But you don't even have to go someplace. You could sit on your back porch. Trying to figure out ways to be able to stream music or the right kind of music so that it can be picked up on your cell phone. I mean, those are kinds of things that we're looking at and getting into the planning of how do we make it happen to where it's totally different than anything else. You don't have to be right there listening to the speakers. You can be anywhere in Westlake, enjoy the show from your home, like I say, on your Roku, your streaming device or whatever, and figure out how to do that. I mean, there are ways the technology keeps changing. I'm sure there's ways we can figure out how to do it. I just have to figure out how to get the right partners in place.
I just like to speak to that. I do understand, and as it relates to the money, what Councilman Paul is saying, but I also like the fact that we do now have that amount of money is budgeted in. Because speaking from personal experience, I don't think we would want the HOA to always host events because then council members get left out, i.e., some of those past events that have happened. So I think if the city does have that money allocated or budgeted in, it may be beneficial because we do know and we see that the community likes events. They like coming together. And even if you have the monies in and you find a sponsor for your fireworks show, you still have a year long of events that you could host. Right. And we see that from other municipalities, right? So I think, with it being a brand new city and the city continuing to grow as rapidly as it does, then the city does need to have input and community events that happen opposed to the HOA having a say all the time of what events they host. I think it would be good. And then that way, I'm confident the money will come in. We have other departments that would be factored in with that as well. So I do like the fact that the money is budgeted in this year. I thought that was pretty wise to do.
It's not that I'm
sure
against it. It's just,
sure.
Again, I don't know if this is 22 budget.
Sure.
So would that be something that would come up December this year? No. That would then be December 22 or not?
Yeah. Well, the event would be, the fireworks would be it would be July 4th of next year.
July.
Yeah.
I had noise in my
Yeah.
mind. Okay, July 4th.
Yeah.
And would we then, before we spend that money, have discussion on it again?
Oh, yes, 100%. 100%. The council would be involved once we start putting together a scope of plan of what we're looking at. We will have a budget and have the council's blessing on how much do you want to go, how do you want to do it, how many sponsors we can get, all that would be brought before you authorize the event, because again, this is a city sponsored event. So it has to be sponsored by the council at a vote for the council saying on such and such a date, we're going to spend city funds and sponsor funds, et cetera, and put on this big event. Because it would be a city event, then there's a whole lot of changes that normally if HOA was doing event with special permits, et cetera, because the city's sponsoring it, there's a different process. So we need to make sure all that's in play.
At some point, when the city is reached puberty, we will have an events coordinator here. Who will handle that and be a salaried employee and handle taking care of all these events and putting together sponsors and
contract. And the bottom line is that we would do it like we would do with a PR firm. We would contract an events coordinator or a PR firm to be handling those kind of things. It would be part of their tasking. It would be a fee, hey, to put on the the New Year's Eve deal of whatever, here's what we're gonna do.
The more that we can handle ourselves as a council between now and that point
Mhm.
is only gonna benefit, the city and the residents of the city by putting those funds together. So if we can, if we have to, speak with some of the corporate sponsors or put together people to put these funds together, it will certainly benefit the city and the city residents. I'm pretty confident, to be honest with you, that we're budgeting this money for the event, and we're earmarking it for the fireworks at this point. But I think you're going to see plenty of sponsors step up to the plate, and help out with this.
It will be good, I'm just,
Yeah, and I understand, I totally agree with you at this point. I don't like to see money going out when we're taking money to balance the budget. So we can, if we don't use the money, it's always back in the budget. And next year, we'll look at it, again and see where we are and how we did. And hopefully we don't use it at all. At least we've covered our bases by being able to have the funds there if necessary.
And it provides flexibility for the council. Because you may find sponsors for the fourth event, but you may want to have a Memorial Day event or a Veterans Day event or a New Year's Eve event or some other events that wouldn't eat up all of this, but gives you that flexibility to do multiple events, which based upon what I'm seeing and hearing through the grapevine and stuff, we have a community of people that like events. So we'll have to figure out how to get those events, either co-sponsor with a third party or whatever, but I think we can be able to do that.
When we do hit that time where we might need to hire an actual events coordinator, I think it would be absolutely wise to have a events committee.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
To influence that whole situation, to get the community involved.
Definitely.
That's one of the committees we absolutely have.
While we're there, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, we may have talked about this at the last meeting. How long is the contract for the solid waste collection? How long is it?
I think there's 2.5 or 3 more years.
I think last I think I got information from outside.
Yeah.
From someone that's looking to get the contract.
Yeah.
And that I've spoken to, and I think he said it was around 2 years. So.
Yeah. And by then, again, we will be of a size that is attractive, that people will want to have our business, which gives us a whole lot more leverage.
Yeah, we'll have some negotiating power.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
printing again. Printers, printing,
Mhm.
numbers went way up. But actually not all went down to the 19,000. We were supposed to see on the income side where SIT pays us back some of the money for printing services and so on.
I'll look at it. I believe this is only representing the city's expense side of it. I don't believe it's the total expense of the bill. I believe it's the city's portion, but I'll verify that.
Yeah, when we voted on the last budget, we were supposed to see, like I said, adjustment on the income side where SIT pays us for usage of cleaning the building, printing services and so on. I have not seen that.
I'll get the breakdown of that for that cleaning as well. But I do know that Sid does pay part of the cleaning bills and the city pays part of the cleaning bills.
Yeah, but if you have it,
I have it broken down for you.
The information technology part, Ken, see we're at 34% increase in the budget. Page 23.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is, 23, I believe that's a combination. And that is a projection based upon the amount of work that the GIS team, et cetera, is doing with everything that's coming in.
And
The lease building, that was thrown in there as a item, as a, shall we say, placeholder. Because one of the things I was looking at was a lease space for the city hall to do as a temporary. That's still a possible option, but there are other options that are in play of a complex that will house city hall as well as other functions. And it would possibly be at the park area and be the center focus of city hall offices, council chambers, and other things at the one site. So we're looking at a number of options.
I see the city attorney. Drastically. 30, over 30%.
And it's basically based upon our current projected run rate with DJ's firm and what we anticipate as far as the workload. The workload right now is higher than what we expect to get to down the road, but I think we're well within this budget of where we would probably be at.
Administrative services, contract administrative services, what all is in that? That number, $100,000 higher than 98,000.
Yes, that's the position we added. The operations coordinator, who's handling the solid waste, handling the Happy program. He's handling bonds. He's handling 4 or 5 other operational things for me.
I'd like to get a better idea of what that person actually really does. So if you, for council meetings, just have a list all the different things
Sure.
that it does for you. That I'd like to see that.
On page 17 and 18, where it talks about Ken, your current highlights and your next year goals, I would
Mhm.
like to recommend you take yourself out of doing the copy with the manager and moving forward. And it could be when the next mayor comes in, just do copy with the mayor.
That's
Just so you
fine.
can take yourself out of that, and then there'll be, the mayor being able to, work with you to provide information to the constituents and things of that nature. So I would like to suggest, that not be in your goal, next year goal, to just go ahead and.
Yeah, and in 2023, it'll be out of there. I can make a transition
Yeah.
to coffee with the mayor, or
Yeah.
every other month or so,
Yeah.
do
Or when the new
a tag team kind of a scenario,
Yeah.
because I think between
Yeah.
the mayor and the manager are your key people who pretty much have an insight of what's going
Right.
on and what's coming up.
Yeah, so I think just, for the new mayor, whomever that may be, that they be able to kind of flow in that role.
No problem.
I'm not sure if we're ready to go to page 27.
I'm ready to move on to the special revenue fund. Questions? Do you have any other questions on the general? Doesn't appear to be. So if you'd like to go forward with the special revenue fund. And
Okay, what this is basically the special revenue fund for the detail on page 27 of the Housing Assistance Program. Currently, we have about 2.56 million in there available. We currently have about 250 something $1,000 committed that hasn't closed yet. So we have about 2,250,000 in there. What we're running up against right now is the criteria threshold of all in of 367. With the lumber increases, et cetera, none of the housing is coming there, but now most of it's coming in at 4.5. Is that the market that you're really trying to help or not? Because then it's qualified buyers more than those that really need to help. Now, when the towns come in, I expect a lot of opportunities for individuals and the price range of the town. So I expect a lot more happy applicants on the townhomes. Are there other plans that we could possibly look at? I know some of the other cities have some plans where they have like happy funding kind of a thing to help senior citizens with repairs on their home or upkeep or maintenance kind of things that they do. But being brand new, we don't really have that issue. There are potential things of targeting different groups of people and saying, okay, this group of people, here's some incentives. There might be some things like that, but that's something that council would need to work through with legal to make sure we can do something like that.
Well, we can see that the average home price in Palm Beach County has gone up to 264, was it, or something like that? I know that it's nationwide, it's up at 353, I think.
Yeah.
330, 335, 3. I get dyslexia sometimes, but we're in that range. Perhaps at some point we need to look at that threshold again.
Yeah.
And see, because the townhomes are really gonna make a big difference over there.
Yeah.
I realize that. Do we have any projection out as to when Mentos planning on constructing?
The site work is in progress. I believe the lift station's installed. I believe all the water, sewer reuse lines are in. I haven't been out in a week and a half. So when I haven't been out in a week and a half, I go out and I'm surprised. I would expect they're probably cutting into roads already and rocking the roads for the site development. I know they've already got a permit in for their first unit, 4-unit building for their models. That'll be their models. I know that permit is already into the building department, that they want to get started going vertical with that. So as soon as the landscaping's in, they can get it up and open for sale.
Do you think you have any kind of guess as to when they may be able to start selling?
Probably right after the first of the year, if not before.
That's pretty fast.
I was thinking Thanksgiving-ish.
That's still fast.
I would say-
Even at the first of the year, being able to, there's a lot of work to do. I mean, even with the site development work done, you still got a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of things and right now, even construction materials and appliances are an issue. Getting stuff in. I'm amazed that they've been able to put things together as well as they have up until now. So,
Bouncing back to this threshold, I just had a question. So there was a meeting several meetings ago back when the threshold was 350.
We went to 367.
Yeah.
Right, there was a handful of applicants, I think 6 or so, that were just under the
Right.
threshold. And by raising it to 367, we were able to help X amount of people and then a good handful of people moving forward.
Right.
Now, is the spread just that far away? Or is there still some people who are just missing it by a few $1,000s?
I'll get with Carlos tomorrow. He's spreadsheeting all of that. I'll look at that and see what the next recommendation would
yeah,
be.
well, the cost of the homes is going up. That's the big deal.
But
Yeah.
are there applicants that are missing by, let's say, less than $10,000? That's what I would like to know.
Well, the last couple that we sent rejections to, they were in the 420 range.
So we're talking about 50, $60,000
Yeah.
spread.
But then you're also saying though, that when you get to that amount, that's really not for the people that really need it.
Correct. And that's the policy decision that the council has to say,
Right.
and where we sit as a group of helping up, not out kind of a scenario. And that's the fine line we walk.
Right, so I'm thinking that, what we really need to see before we make any just decisions here is the town homes, when they're going to be able to be sold, and at what prices price range are gonna be. And that way we'd have a better feel for what we may need to do, or we may find that we may not have to do anything once these townhomes are up and, because that stuff goes, I mean, they
Because
go up
everyone's
fast
almost
and they
doing
sell
it.
fast. So that may be the key right there as to moving forward and with this happy program money and really helping people that need the assistance.
Go ahead.
I would caution to adjust that number in any way right now, because really the market's anywhere out of control, whether it's the housing market, car market, and whether these markets hold up like that remains to be seen, you know.
Right.
Could very well see 2008, another crash, whatever. So, I don't know. I don't think this number needs to go much higher, like $367,000.
Yeah, so
So, you know, and like I said, the housing market is clearly out of control. At the point where we sell a house in Skyco for $500,000 or more, we're missing the target altogether. So,
Well, 6 months is not far to go. We can keep track and get online with what's going on with the market here in Westlake and what's gonna happen with these townhomes over, and then in 6 months or less, we could hopefully make some decisions.
I
as
just
to
really
where
interested to know if there's some people we were missing by just.
I'll look at
very
that.
short margin.
One of the other things, if I remember how it's written, I think we can also do rental assistance first time, in other words, getting somebody into a rental kind of a situation, et cetera. I have to go back and look at it, but I think there's some things we can do
I don't remember that.
possibly.
Well, I thought, one of the developers were mentioning that they were going to bring a product, a single family product that was more affordable. I think they were saying that too, I mean.
Well, Sky Cove originally that's where it came from, but you know what happened to the cost.
The lumber packages are going up almost 50% on a house.
okay, but are we gonna have anything that is a little more affordable? Because, I mean, again, these prices going
It,
way out of control, and I understand the lumber prices and whatnot, but they are coming down.
they've
So it's not
dropped,
like
they've dropped some,
they're
that's
staying
correct.
out there.
Now, again, originally, it depends on what we do as a council, as a city on the overall development. The development order did not allow for apartments. It did not really allow for condos. It didn't allow for a lot of things, which again, having those kind of situations, those other housing products could also open up the ability to help people that aren't in the range that we're sitting at right this minute.
So I can have a suggestion, because I know we've been dealing with this for a while now. And so when speaking with, having those meetings, the purpose, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, of bringing the townhomes was to provide affordable housing.
Correct.
And so I know originally when the program was written, it was written by our attorney. And so there were some things in there that we directed staff to kind of just go back and look at. And so I would like to suggest we still get the attorneys involved, because here's where I'm thinking, and I think we just need to have also someone at the table, Ken, who knows about funding and helping to get people in homes. So possibly, like you said, the threshold, looking at placing a limit on the income to what Palm Beach County BPA program does. Once we do that, the qualification can be based solely on the total household income, not including college students, but that total household income. Once that happens, implement a program mandatory for those people buying to prevent foreclosure. So I'm saying like the whole, we would need to revamp that entire program, and I don't know if we have that in place now.
Yeah.
The DPA could be a loan and not a grant. Is that in place now?
Yes,
We
they
have-
are, they are loans.
So it's loan.
They are
Do they
loans.
have in place where if they move, the loan has to be paid back?
Correct.
Okay, so that's
It's a,
already in
it's a
place.
decreasing, it's a zero interest decreasing loan over 10 years.
Okay,
So if they move out in 5 years, they owe 50% back.
okay, so
To the-
can we go back? Okay, so then can we go back to the original, and you and the attorneys and possibly, I don't know who else, if there needs to be some consultants come in, but look at what the county has in place now. I know we don't have, and let's be clear, this is not affordable housing. Let's just be totally clear. And I'm saying this as safe as I can, but places where a golf ordinance is in place, it's not gonna be, it's not that. But I do think we need to make it specific. We already have your teachers, your police officers, and your civil servants, right? I think there could be a program specific now for your doctors, your nurses, and your EMT.
Mhm.
Because these people can't afford houses, because you have your hospital coming, you have things that they need. But they're VA, right?
No, they're in Mentos program.
They're in Mentos, but we could have one for
We could
you.
have our own.
Right,
Correct.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. If we could, because we only have one, well, two now, but we can create, because we originally talked about having up to 4 programs if need be, right? So, right, and DA and military. So I'm thinking if we could have a couple of them, and we talked about this, just a couple of programs presented to us, we look at it, we'd be able to flush it out, and then be able to, I think that is how we would be able to be beneficial with helping people get in homes, right? Because right now, we do know that there are some gaps in the program, because if you have $2.56 million available, that keeps going up. That's the issue.
48,000.
Right.
A week or two ago.
Right.
Yes, on
exactly.
every retail sale.
Yeah.
Are we earning interest on this 2.5?
I think so.
So,
Probably 0.15%,
Yeah.
just like my money.
At least we're not paying the bank to keep it there yet.
what I'm
right,
saying.
right. So I think we can have a couple of programs offered where it could be affordable, right? And go from there.
At the end of the day,
Yeah,
that
we
money's
need to look
there
at
to help,
Absolutely.
people who need it.
Correct.
So, as far as I know, I think there is an income cap on it right now.
We follow the county's role on number of people and assets. We had to turn down a couple the other week because they had their assets exceeded.
Right, we shouldn't be giving 20K to people with 300 cash in the bank.
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
So, I mean, it's simple.
So again, can you and the
We'll flush it
attorney-
out and to bring it back.
And
to you.
maybe what we could do, once you flush it, identify to us, what is the problem?
Mhm.
Because now we need to know, if we do have the limit, all of that in place, then we need to actually know what is the problem, why is there a problem, and how are we gonna move forward to fix it.
Do we have a room for minor children? Do we? Family with whatever X amount of children?
Yes, it's in the county's chart. In other words, an income with so many members of the household, there's a whole chart that you can earn up to, $100,000 or whatever. I don't know didn't memorize the chart completely, but basically you could be ending up with a family of 5, say, and be having an income of 120K and still qualify for the program. So those kind of things are already in place. We're following the counties on that. But the biggest drawback right now is the actual threshold of the house, because even in the county, a lot of the prices and stuff, can't find a place that fits.
So can you come back to us
Yes,
in October?
yes.
And maybe we have, I don't know, I don't know what it looks like, a workshop, a meeting, but if the attorneys or you could come back to us in October or what have you.
We got the information.
Yeah, and then
Because-
November, if that's when go is, we have the program in place and we can have something And the later on in October, or first November, at the Fail Center
For the
to
county
say what it
to
is,
know that we'd be
yeah,
ready.
for community to say what it
Yeah,
is, and so
that's
we
a
know
great
what's
idea.
going on.
Is there like a sliding scale algorithm or whatever you want to call it in terms of income versus assets? So like if you have a retired couple on Social Security, for
Mhm.
instance, that might want to sell their home to move into Westlake, that's somebody's, couple seniors, who their sole income is Social Security, that's somebody who this program could potentially help, but on paper, they're gonna have the house, that
The proceeds, yes.
the proceeds from that house it might not be enough. They might have 200 of the house they paid off or whatever the case is. So I'm
We'll,
curious.
we'll look at,
'Cause I hear of that exact situation a lot.
Once we figure this out again, and get it updated, like, my notion was to somehow promote it out to the public, more fast, so that it's out there, so that we could get people into Westlake and homeowners into Westlake at a much more rapid speed if they're able to take advantage of the program. But if they don't know the program's there, it's just like, everyone says, you can put your sign up in front of your business, but no one's gonna know that you're there unless you promote your business through the media or some type of media to get them to come. So,
the building it faster is the issue, because right now I know that all three builders are a year out delivery.
yeah, that's gonna be that's the clincher
That's,
right now.
that's the driver every place. That's why a lot of the, give you a story of one of my other clients, the board member decided he was gonna sell his house and buy another when he sold his house, and right now he's homeless because he can't find a place.
Yeah.
So it's like, it sold like within, 72 hours, it was gone, and he couldn't find a place. And he says when he sees a place, if he doesn't have the offer right then and there that minute, when he walks in the door, he can't come back 10 minutes later, it's gone,
That's why I said the markets are controlled, and
Yeah.
you gotta be careful not to get people in houses that, if the market were to fall apart, they're then left, but,
That is my,
you know,
when we started this, that is my biggest concern, was to make sure that we do not set people up for failure. Because that would be the worst thing that we could do as a government entity, would be to set people up for failure. Helping them get on their feet for success is what we need to continue to do.
is there, I'm sorry, is there, do we differentiate between new construction and, buying a house that's already,
No,
because, those houses are my main concern, because they're well over market value, a lot of them, and, again, there's that chance that we helping somebody getting into a house like that, and the market doesn't go up, and then now they are $200,000 in the hole.
no, it's whatever the sale price of the house if they apply for the program.
I mean, in reality, the person applying still has to have the right credit score.
Yep.
They still have to have the right income.
Correct.
All we're doing is helping them possibly with the down payment or maybe some closing costs.
Correct.
So, it's not like the old days where the banks are writing loans for everybody
No.
and anybody. They make you, they want to know where every penny came from and why you lived at the last 10 places and.
Yeah, after the last debacle.
Absolutely.
There've been a
It's
lot
not
of
like it's the Wild
regulations.
West.
There's a lot of regulations put in place.
And again, the program from the inception was always to, as a lot of us have been there, you're looking for the house, you're trying to get in the first place or whatever, and you're that $8,240 short. And it's like, where can I come up with that? Or how can I come up with that? How can I do it? So you go try to save it or do something, and you're still $4,000 short. And, you never quite close that gap. You have it with young professionals, you have it with young engineers, young attorneys, you name it. people coming out trying to get started and set up, that gap is the killer for everybody in the home ownership. And that's the gap that we were trying to close.
The bank still makes the call. at the end of the day.
Oh, yes.
Certainly not us.
Correct.
Are there any other questions or any more discussion on the special revenue fund?
Is the CARES money in here?
No, there is no CARES money. It would not be a budgeted item. The CARES money or the, I forget what it's called now, a something or other. Got another email this past week. So I'm looking at,
Would that be another workshop on how we decide to spend that money?
yes, there'll be a workshop on that as to where I think we can spend it and not have them come back and take it from us later. I mean, that's with all these programs is the real true test as to what their clawback period is on us.
That's what I was gonna say. There's so many hooks to that money that you have to be very careful how you spend it. Because the clawback, and you don't want to be on the hook for that money after it's already extended.
That's what we have you for.
I know, and we'll make sure you are fully advised on that.
Do we have any other further questions on the budget right now? For this workshop?
I will say much better budget than when we first started. Good job.
Well, it's a little easier to split them apart as we've grown because there's a little more differentiation between the areas. But again, with a contract type budget where everything is contracted for, breaking it down to the detail that you're used to seeing in a lot of cities' budgets is very difficult. But I can cluster it by function and get it a little closer that way.
Well, you gotta remember that this wasn't an orthodox entry into the city realm. We've taken it it's been one of those from the ground up endeavors. We had some direction from some other special districts that have done it, the Reedy Creek, and also down south. Weston, yes. We had a little bit of, and it had some knowledge from them, and but it's been a ground up operation here, and it was just like starting a new business, pretty much, and it's come together very well, I think. So at this moment, if we don't have any other questions, we'll open it up to public comment.
I received no public comment cards prior to the meeting. However, I'll give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or mute their device. Please state your name and address. If you're a caller that has been muted, you may press *6 to speak. Please state your name and address. Ms. Torres.
Hi, everybody. 5847 Whippoorwill Circle. Mr. Castle, I have about 4 questions here. So I'll just try to list them off. My first question is, it looks like your PowerPoint slide 7, that our legal expenses go to almost 0 at about 2025. And I just wondered if it's just, it doesn't actually go to 0, but it's just too small of an amount to show.
Yeah, let me look at that. Hold on a second.
Okay.
No, legal's still at about $250,000 all the way out to 2026.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I know this is a city meeting, and I do appreciate the blurb you gave at the beginning of the meeting that clarified a lot for me, but I might have missed, how is SID funded? I just want to know, is is it the other part of the taxes that we pay that do not go to the city?
No, SID collects its revenue on the non-ad valorem taxes that are on your bill. There's non-ad valorem assessments. One of them is Seminole Improvement District for operations and maintenance, and the other is going to be your Solid Waste Authority, Palm Beach County, and will now also have your solid waste to the city that's being collected, which will be on your non-ad valorem taxes for solid waste collection.
Okay, great, thank you. Can you talk about, well, let me do this last one. I didn't see the FPU, the gas franchise fee, showing up on that page 12, I think it was.
It's currently not in there.
Okay,
Unless I can estimate what it might be, I'm not going to put it in the budget.
okay. All right, and then, so when Minto is essentially paying 0, and that looks,
What do you mean eventually paying 0?
you know, I thought that Minto, you know, the developer's contribution, you know, is supposed to be going down each year, and we
Correct.
pick up the tab. So if Minto were to pay 0, say in 2025, but the city isn't finished, what kind of role do they play still in the bill, you know, completion?
They pay taxes on every piece of property that they own,
Oh, right, okay.
every lot that's platted, they pay taxes on everything.
Okay.
The developer funding is a shortfall mechanism only. In case we did not have enough revenue or expenses were beyond what we originally projected, they were there as the stopgap measure to fund us as necessary.
Right, and I guess my real question is, is Minto really in charge until the completion of the city, I guess, is my question.
Minto's not,
Not in charge at all.
Minto's not in charge. Who's in charge is this board that's sitting in front of you here as a city council. Because what they set forth in the ordinances of the city, not only with the comprehensive master plan, but your land development regulations, their approvals for development, the fulfillment of the development order, et cetera, is all the control of this board that sits here in the chambers. Minto is not in control. Minto has to comply with the development order, of which they have to build certain roads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have to give certain land to the county. They have to do certain things. They're responsible for those, but as far as control, no, they are not in control.
Okay, so then as far as the Town Center Parkway extension to Golden Grove,
Mhm.
the residents decided that they wanted it now, and the city council, you know, voted to reflect that need or want, then why isn't it being built?
Because it's not in the developer's plan. It's not in the development plan at this part in time. Now, if the residents really wanted it built now, they'd have to cough up the millions of dollars right now out of their pockets in order to build the road, and then Minto would pay them back, or somebody would pay them back in the future, or the city would get it another way. But there's no way that that's going to be constructed. Also, if it's a city project, you have to go out for city bids, which is a far more expensive and complicated situation. And in order to have that, would have to float general obligation bonds in order to do it, the project, then it would be a debt service on the project. Right now, there is no debt service on anybody's property right now for debt service for any of the infrastructure.
You're saying debt,
Unusual.
are you saying debt, DEBT?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. My last question is, can you talk about how operating surplus relates to the reserve? And do we have a reserve cap established yet?
Not yet, because we do not have to have it until the funding agreement runs out, because Minto is on the hook for whatever shortfall is.
Oh, okay, okay.
But that's one of the reasons also I'm working with them to build up the first quarter operating reserves and contingency, so by the time they are off the hook of funding, we have our first quarter reserves fully funded and our contingency fully funded.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
If you wish to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand or unmute your device by pressing *6 and state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. Again, if you wish to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand or unmute your device, state your name and address. Mayor, I see no further comments.
Thank you. Mr. Castle, thank you for your presentation. We look forward to the clarifications that you'll send to everyone.
Yes.
Once you put your numbers together and on that. And with that, Mr. Morgan, thank you for being here tonight. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
And do we have any other comments from the council?
Well, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that may bring up, we may need to do a workshop and special meeting on, and probably mention it now, August 23rd. And it would be a potential special meeting for the mobility section of the chapter 5 of the LDRs, art and public places, and traffic. The traffic and art and public places would be a workshop. The special meeting would be involving the mobility chapter of the LDRs. It's the last one we need to get finished on the LDRs. We're trying to wrap that up as soon as possible because it does have some impact on some of the other things that are out there at play.
Okay.
So if the council's kind of good with that date, I'll tentatively pencil that in and we'll start working towards it.
Okay. Is everyone all
Should be okay.
okay with that?
All right. Thank you
Would
much.
you know by our council meeting next?
Yes, I will. I'll know
next
for
week?
sure.
That way you have time to publish it.
I'll know for sure by then whether we'll make it on all the stuff
Okay.
that we need. But at least we'll have the workshop. And we may have a workshop on all three, but I'm hoping to have the mobility chapter ironed up. We were down to the last pieces of the mobility chapter. The hangup was whether we're going to go for concurrency or mobility fee. Got input back from the city attorney's office today that they're okay going with the mobility fee. So we're going to structure it with a mobility fee because the state has struck down the concurrency issues everywhere else. So you can still do the mobility fee and utilize the funds differently for other mobility projects.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Paul?
I just, again, for the budget, on some of the items, I just would like to see a little more detail. We talked about some of them. Talked about this and a bigger for the, if he can talk to the city manager to see if we get a little more, a better understanding of how this irrigation, all that stuff works, and what that costs the city and the taxpayer. I would like to know that. COVID, I know we're going by zip code. I would really love to have a little better idea of what we got going on in Westlake. I know there are cases in Westlake right now. I know one lady is in really bad shape right now. I would like to know about the city going forward, whether we're gonna have masks, no masks, whatever the mandates are. And if we as a council, and I know we all got our own beliefs into whether get vaccinated, whether wear a mask or not. But this is a problem, this is worldwide. This is not, I hate wearing a mask, without a doubt. But I think as a council, we should be pushing in one direction and maybe, whether it's Facebook, website, whatever, encourage residents to get that shot, to get vaccinated, to wear a mask and so on. Again, this is a worldwide problem. It's not like this is just going away. Any other time we have an issue, We go to the doctor, we listen to the doctor, what they say. In this case, our feelings are being trampled on and we feel our rights are being taken away, which is nonsense. So I call up on the council and on Alicia Torres maybe to maybe spread the word and, encourage our residents to really get that shot, wear a mask, do whatever it takes to protect ourselves and our children. That's all I got from that.
I was just gonna say, Councilman Paul, I don't know if it's still happening, but the Western Community Call that Dr. Alonso is
Yeah.
normally on, I had that issue with, the problem was, and I was kind of stepping on Ken's neck a lot about it during initially COVID, because we don't have our own zip code. It's just so hard for us to identify, for whatever reason, our numbers. But the Western Community Call was open to any elected official in the Western community. And it was for, Dr. Alonso is on the call to try to identify and pinpoint our numbers. Also, Betty Argue, who is president of Indian Trail
Indian
Visit,
Trails.
she has a really good, if you reach out to her, she has a really good breakdown and data to be able to tell you like our numbers as best she could. But it's really, and maybe Ken, I don't know.
I'll check with Dr. Alonso,
Yeah.
because at one time they were breaking down the numbers
Right.
to smaller areas and stuff, but then they quit doing that again.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they are.
Yeah.
They just had a call on Friday to discuss the county's mask in the offices and stuff. We're following the same protocols in the office that we followed from the beginning of this. Social distancing. If somebody's uncomfortable, they mask. We clean the place. We have the barriers. People come in, we stay away from them. And we've been following that same process from the beginning.
We got people at my place of work that are ill, that have the virus, and I was unaware that they were getting sick, and maybe by knowing those numbers and knowing what's going on in our immediate area, it might raise the awareness and it might get people to really, we got the whole issue now with school, opening schools and kids and whatnot, and then UTEP have a new child that cannot get vaccinated. Well, God forbid he gets sick, things like that. It happens. My youngest son, his newborn child, he had COVID, when he was born. So these things are real. It happens. And we need to do whatever we can to protect ourselves and those around us.
I know the hospital, Mentos urgent care, Westlake urgent care, said that they provided so many vaccines. Can we circle back to them?
Yeah.
To see, and then that way you could put it on the website, or it may be something that you want to spearhead, Councilman Paul, and say Councilman Paul spearhead, vaccine distribution or what have you. But if we could circle back to them, I know they say they distributed 50.
Right.
If they're distributing some, and then we can, but that call, I'm telling you, the call is a great call. And anyone is welcome to hop on. And so we can know what's going on with it. But maybe the urgent care is distributing vaccines again.
At least it would be some more, it'd be very local to us.
Right.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I know that the COVID pandemic has affected cities' budgets, which is, part of the discussion here tonight. As far as the policy questions you have of the value judgment of people not wanting to get the vaccine, the city should follow the science and with the guidance of the CDC with the different things that they've now come into place. So the city wouldn't necessarily be making a value judgment as to whether people should or shouldn't. It would be based on those recommendations, and the city would be following those recommendations. So it wouldn't be coming from the council per se, it would be coming from the council through the CDC, so that you guys aren't in a place where you're telling people what to do necessarily. You're just passing along the recommendation from the nation's Center for Disease Control, so.
Good advice.
Good,
Do you have anything further?
I'm good.
Very good. We'll see everyone, next Monday
Next
night.
Monday.
We're gonna adjourn this meeting at 7:55 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
You too.